The Revenge of the Severed Head. 892 AD. Back in the 9th century, Britain was fragmented into many small kingdoms and was plagued by regular attacks from Viking raiders originating from Scandinavia. It had become so bad that many of these raiders had established numerous permanent Viking colonies and bases across Britain. It was around this time that the legendary King Alfred the Great was battling to unify England in an attempt to drive the Vikings from the English shores once and for all. One of the smallest and most remote of these Viking kingdoms was based in the north of Britain on the small Scottish island group known as the Orkney Islands. This had been given to Rogvald Eystein, the head of the House of Eystein, by the Viking king of Norway, Harald Fairhair, as compensation for the death of one of his sons, Ivar, who died in a battle in Scotland in the service of the king. Ivar had died fighting to reclaim the Orkney Islands from renegade pirate Vikings who had fled there to escape the king's justice. Rogvald would pass power to his brother Sigurd Eystein, second Jarl of Orkney. Sigurd was soon to become known as Sigurd the Mighty. He had earned his title from his heroic exploits. He eventually had a falling out with another local Pictish lord by the name of Maelbrigit, the Bucktooth of Moray, named after his apparent overbite. Sigurd decided to take the lord's castle for himself in order to expand his territory further. When Mael refused to hand over his territory, Sigurd challenged him to a 40-man battle, which was a traditional way to settle differences in those times. On the day of the battle, Sigurd cheated by bringing along 80 men instead of the agreed 40, which allowed him to swiftly defeat Mael, who he beheaded for his collection. While on horseback, Sigurd paraded around the severed head as a trophy for all to see. Sigurd had even ordered all of his men to put severed heads of the men they had slain on their horses for the ride home to show the people how he had won a great victory and killed his enemies. Unfortunately for Sigurd, he was about to suffer one of the strangest deaths in history. As he and his men rode the long journey home, showing off his great victory, Mael's head and his buck tooth had scratched against an open wound on Sigurd's leg. To many, it looked like Mael's famous bucktooth was seemingly biting into the wound in some kind of act of bloody vengeance from beyond the grave. As a result of the scratches from the bloodied and severed head and the bacteria that it carried entering his bloodstream, Sigurd's seemingly minor wound festered, became inflamed and infected, creating a foul stench. Before dawn arrived, he was dead. He was buried where he died near a Scottish town called Dornoch, in a tumulus, a mound of earth raised over a grave which would become known as Sigurd's How. It is said that after the funeral, Sigurd's servants gathered his collection of severed heads and noticed that Mael had a big bucktooth grin. And as if cursed, the region quickly fell into chaos as Sigurd's son, Guttorm, died childless just a few months into his reign. Then Sigurd's brother, Rogvald, named his own son Halad as the next Earl of Orkney, but almost immediately the Orkneys started to be plagued by constant renegade Viking attacks. After only a short time, Halad gave up the earldom and fled back to Norway in disgrace, as abandoning his kingdom in such an abrupt manner was seen as a cowardly thing to do. He died a short time later, a broken man. Meanwhile, the Orkney Islands had fallen under the rule of two renegade Viking warlords. But this was short-lived, as Halad's younger brother, Einar, reconquered the islands and eventually established an Eystein ruling dynasty there that would last for 6 more centuries. Hey guys, check out this simple history merch on Teespring. There's t-shirts, mugs, stickers, phone cases, and much more. Link in the description below.